I'm so happy that we are all here, because we're all here with you, and when I walked onto the ground here, I said, I feel like I'm walking on hallowed ground. And that's how it felt to come here, and I want to thank you for asking us to be here, and I want to thank you for being here. To share together some words, and to share together some thoughts and some feelings, and to share in what the inaugural poet, Richard Blanco, called the impossible vocabulary of sorrow. Here we are together, reaching out across the divide. We are talking about transformation and change. We're talking about how the mud gives birth to the lotus flower. We're talking about how pain and suffering gives rise to the highest good. We're talking about a person, the Buddha, who left home to try to find the meaning in his life. He left home to try to find the meaning in suffering, and he found it. And what he taught after that became the basis for, as Lama Yeshe said earlier, a mental wellness that has the clothing of religion. Because the Buddha taught that suffering came from within us, and that because it rises from within us, it can be worked with, it can be addressed, it can be encountered, contacted, it can be touched and changed. Why? Because it all arises from within the mind. Recently, His Holiness Jawan Karmapa was interviewed for a film called The Continuum. And in that film, he is quoted as saying, "Our mind is our home. It is our most precious home. If we spend some time in our home each day, we will be nurtured there, and it will be a place to which we can always return." And this is the beginning of healing. This is the beginning of working with our thoughts, our feelings, and emotions, because they come from within us. They come from the mind. And so this is why all of the methods of Buddhism have to do with our mind, working with our mind, working with our feelings. You've heard a lot about love and compassion this evening, the power of the story that David told, the power of the story that Lama Yeshe told. These stories are powerful because they are true, and they're powerful because they are real within us. Love and compassion is taught by all of the great world faith traditions, and there's a reason for this commonality, because it is love that heals. It's love that takes us outside of our own pain. All of us have a potential for goodness. This was the Buddha's teaching. We all have the potential to wake up, to know ourselves, and to know ourselves completely. In fact, we're a little parochial in Buddhism. We call it Buddha nature. Everyone has a mind, and that mind has the potential to experience great happiness. I'll never forget the day that my teacher said to all of us, he said, "If you only knew who you really were," and he looked at all of the faces in the crowd. He says, "If you only knew who you really were and what goodness you were capable of," he said, "you would be astounded and amazed." And it was that day that I realized that I had chosen well when I had chosen him as a teacher, because he was about affirmation. He was about affirming the basic goodness of people, which we see each and every day in ways large and small in our lives. The work that I have been doing over the last 15 years has been to teach people meditation. Both the quiet sitting meditation, in which we allow our mind to rest on the breath and let go of the thoughts that arise for us. Very simple method of attending to the breath, and then when thoughts inevitably cross the mind, touching them lightly with our attention, letting them go, and then returning to the breath for a fresh start. This incredibly simple technique allows us to let go. Because if you remember from Lama Yeshe's description of the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha said suffering's part of life. It has a cause, and that cause is clinging and fixation. It has a solution, which is letting go. And there is a path to letting go. So this ability to let go that is established for us on the meditation seat is the beginning of our ability to work with whatever arises within our mind. Everyone knows the poet Shakespeare. He said, "Nothing is either good nor bad, but thinking makes it so." So really, happiness and suffering happens within the mind. All of my friends in the 12-step recovery tradition say that happiness is an inside job. It's something we do within ourselves. And so the methods of meditation have helped me in my personal life. But the piece of Buddhist teachings that have helped me the most in my own life have been the teachings on love and compassion. Now, everyone talks about love and compassion, but few tell you how. How do you feel love? How do you feel compassion? How do you cultivate love? How do you cultivate compassion? And so the methodology, this is what I feel is the key. Long, long ago, a Buddhist monk lived in Indonesia. He had been there for many years, preaching the Buddhist teachings. And a wandering monk from India came to see him and said, "I have been sent by a vision. They said to come here and receive teachings from you. What special teachings do you have to give me?" And this teacher, named Serlenka, said, "I'm going to teach you how to train your mind in love. I'm going to teach you how to train your mind in love." Now, of course, we might think this is a little ridiculous. I mean, we all feel love naturally. Why should we have to train in it? It just comes naturally, doesn't it? But the answer is no. It comes naturally for those we feel close to, but it doesn't come naturally for those we don't feel close to. In fact, you could say that there are even some people who stand outside the fence of our love and compassion. Perhaps it's people we disagree with on politics. Perhaps it's people we disagree with on religion. Or people we feel endangered by, we feel threatened by. But those people stand outside the fence of our love and compassion, and therefore we could potentially harm them, because that's what we do. So we have to learn to train our minds in love and train our minds in compassion. And so these methods that were taught by the Buddha, taken to Indonesia, and then re-imported back to India, and then to Tibet, these methods are lojong, mind training, teach us how to train the mind in love. How do we do it? We do it by sitting comfortably and allowing our mind to rest on the breath. And as we breathe out, we think, "I extend my love to all. I wish for all beings to be happy." On the in-breath, we think, "May all beings be free of suffering." Out-breath, "May all beings be happy." In-breath, "May all beings be free of suffering." And we do it for ourselves first. We do it for ourselves first. And what this very simple method does is it allows us to love ourselves as though we were our own children, we were our own parents. We all need nurturing and we all need love and compassion. And we start with ourselves and then expand toward others. First for those we love, then for those we are indifferent toward, and finally to those we dislike. So this method of meditation has helped me so much in my life because it has allowed me to let go of the things that trouble me and to engender the things that heal. The other thing that helps me in my own life is the aspiration to be of benefit to every single person I encounter. This is one of the teachings that Serlingpa gave to Atisha, and he took back to India and then to Tibet. Always wish to be of benefit to everyone you encounter. Make every relationship, even casual ones on the street, be about the benefit of others. Even if you don't know what to do, even if you feel helpless, wish in your heart, may I be of benefit to you whom I'm encountering. This simple wish to be of benefit to others is transformative. If you think it enough, it will become your new normal. It will become what you do. It will become how you relate. It will become how you relate to yourselves and others. So for me, the wish to be of benefit to others is something I do because I've practiced it over and over again. I wake up in the morning and I think, may everything I do today benefit beings in some way, and may we all come to awakening. And when I feel that someone's looking at me and I feel uncomfortable, like in a large room with a lot of people in it, I think, well, even if I make a fool of myself, may it be for the benefit of all. This is the way that human beings can influence one another. And I'm going to close with a short story from when I was a newspaper reporter. Human beings, what we do is we influence each other. Yes, we do, with the way we look, with the way we speak, the inflections, our body language. We're always talking and communicating with each other continuously, a language of unseen words. When I was a reporter, I was asked to go interview the lady who rings the church bells at noontime in the little town that I live in. And I interviewed her, and she was a woman of strong faith. And I said to her, well, what is it that brings you down here every day to play for 10 or 15 minutes at the lunch hour? And she said, well, she said, I believe that there are good influences and negative influences everywhere. Every town has negative influences, and every town has positive influences. And she says, and I want to be one of the good ones. So with that, I'll close and thank you.
Well, some of us carry heavier burdens of neurosis and have to extensively type down their words, so please bear with me here. Although your mission involves listening and learning from various panels, my guess is that it has been the people on the panels who have had the most to learn from you. I'm here today as a forensic psychiatrist, a Buddhist, but most importantly, your brother and fellow human being. I feel deep gratitude over being a part of this gathering, and I hope I can contribute in a helpful way. I wanted to give a brief introduction of what led me here, and then mention a few points on trauma, healing, and resilience from a mental health standpoint. Afterwards, I'm happy to try to answer any questions, if we have time, about violence prevention from a psychiatric standpoint. So, when I was about 10 years old, not a little older than my son is now, I saw something that would stick in my memory for the rest of my life. It was a Time magazine cover. At the center of it was a large vat of Kool-Aid, and surrounding the vat were numerous bodies. Now, I'm not sure if it was that I was unable to process what it meant at that age, or perhaps I could process it only too well. The Buddhists are fond of saying that the mind of a child is so open and honest. Regardless, I fixated on it. Later, my school teacher gave us the assignment of writing a short story. And while other children were writing their stories about sports figures, the family pet, I was busy crafting an attempt to fathom something dreadful. In my story, I was a Jonestown member who had managed to hide and escape. I can only speculate on my teacher's reaction to my work. If it signaled a need for a concerned parent-teacher conference, I was not invited. Retrospectively, I wonder if this was an early warning sign I may become a forensic psychiatrist. Somebody should have alerted the authorities. I have found that much of my career has been focused on similar themes, though, in all honesty. As a physician and later as a forensic psychiatrist, I found that violence and death have been a daily focus of my concern. And after a while, I began to wonder why this had come about. I come from two previous generations of physicians, which is proof that the obsessive-compulsive genes can be inherited. My family lost several patriarchs at an early age, one from suicide. And after much thought and assistance from those wiser than me, the vague outlines of answers began to surface. I think it is possible that my family chose a field, medicine, that concerns itself with trying to see death coming, prepare for it, and if possible, stave it off. But I found that in trying so hard to do this, it is easy to lose the present moment, which is where life is to be found. I chose to go into the medical discipline that deals with the mind, and since Buddhists have been studying the mind for some 2,500 years, I found that they had an incredible amount to offer here, and I was astounded at how much it overlapped with Western psychology. What I found through my study of both psychiatry and Buddhism is that two of the mind's greatest foes are fear and a powerful pull to value one's self, sometimes at the expense of peace and gratitude. The Sandy Hook Promise states that your hearts are broken, but your spirit is not, and I am humbled by this. You've put into action the advice of a beloved Buddhist nun who said that the key to dealing with fear and to achieving peace is the willingness to take in the pain and suffering of ourselves and others and send out happiness to all. The amazing thing to me is that all across the country, and indeed all across the planet, this is precisely how the people of Sandy Hook are seen and revered. You've opened your hearts and minds to whatever arises. You've been breathing in the suffering and sending out relief. Part of your mission is to help the community heal, so I wanted to share with you a bit of what is known about this vital task from a mental health viewpoint. Psychiatric research suggests that after a major trauma, people's belief systems are impacted and can undergo modification. They may expect changes to their worldview as they knew it, their views on human nature, spirituality, and even their own identity. Grief and recovery are necessary, and stress reactions are very, very common and typical, and they include things such as, I'm sure you've heard before, reliving the event, avoidance, feelings of guilt, and a heightened physiological response. Too little work, in my opinion, has been done on understanding resilient survivors, but it appears that they cope early on by cultivating the following. First, a sense of safety, then a sense of calm, then a sense of personal efficacy, and then a sense of social connectedness. And I'm extremely impressed at how you all have done this. And then finally, the most important thing after all these are accomplished is developing and maintaining a sense of realistic optimism. Finally, resilient survivors find a way to process and reorganize the trauma into an opportunity for positive change. In this spirit, please let me give an example of a man I had the good fortune to meet by the name of Tim Carter. You probably don't recognize his name. He is one of only 4 living persons who survived the mass killing at Jonestown in 1978. He was a man who survived deadly combat as a U.S. Marine in Vietnam, and then ends up surviving the Jonestown tragedy. I knew I had to meet this man, and I learned from him, and so I did. I was able to track him down and ended up collaborating with him on a panel much like this one. I asked him to help me better understand how he was able to bounce back from a lifetime of trauma that would seem to have crushed me personally. He told me I had to forgive myself first and show myself compassion and then get my own house in order. Then I had to ask him the question. My heart started pounding because I knew that this might be my only chance. I nervously said, "Tim, after all that, how do you..." He mercifully finished my question for me. Find meaning? It took a while, but I found deep meaning in how the experiences had transformed me. He said he relied on three things: his friends, his spirituality, and professional help when he needed it. It won't surprise you to know that he had an abundance of positive coping skills, among them an emotional openness, a great sense of humor, and it was also apparent to me that here was a person who had never stopped listening and had never stopped learning. Please bear with me for one more example, one last example from my studies. This one all the way from Norway. On July 22nd, 2011, Norway experienced the immeasurable loss and trauma when a man named Breivik killed over 70 innocent people. Immediately after, there was a remarkable and courageous response, much like your own, and I wanted to share with you the reflections of the medical first responders in their own words. These are just a few snippets. The collective responses from society have called for more togetherness, fellowship. And after some time had passed, I was left with a feeling of emptiness. Thoughts were slowly seeping in. Questions and self-reproach came up. Most important of all was to be compassionate and caring, enduring the pain of others, leaning forward and being there. In terms of the broad goals of violence reduction, both my training in psychiatry and study of Buddhism have led me to believe that this is something that can only come from within each individual. That is, violence can't be forced on the unwilling. It seems almost too simplistic, but worth thinking deeply about. Any movement towards peace must begin in each individual's own mind. Each of us must somehow learn for ourselves how to, for the benefit of others, cultivate a fearless compassion, to allow our own pain to become a stepping stone for understanding the pain of others, and to have our spirits unbroken even when our hearts are. Thank you.